Amsterdam protests erupt over Gaza peace deal and war anniversary. On Wednesday, the city of Amsterdam became the latest flashpoint in the global wave of protests over the Gaza war, as police clashed with demonstrators marking the second anniversary of the October 7 Hamas attacks. What began as a peaceful pro-Palestinian march through Dam Square quickly escalated into confrontation after authorities attempted to disperse the crowd. The rally, organized by various human rights groups and student activists, aimed to commemorate the martyrs of Gaza and denounce what they called the injustice of a new U.S.-brokered peace plan led by President Donald Trump. Witnesses described a tense scene as thousands of demonstrators flooded the square, waving Palestinian flags, chanting "Free, Free Palestine," and holding banners demanding an end to Israeli occupation. Many participants lit candles and carried photographs of victims from Gaza, transforming the protest into both a political statement and a vigil for the dead. Yet, tensions rose sharply when protesters attempted to march beyond the permitted zone toward government buildings. Riot police moved in, citing public safety concerns. Videos circulating online showed officers using batons and tear gas to disperse the crowd, while several protesters were dragged away and detained. The arrests triggered anger among demonstrators, who accused Dutch authorities of silencing solidarity movements and siding with Western powers. Activist organizations in the Netherlands quickly condemned the police response, calling it an infringement on freedom of expression. According to them, the demonstration was not just about Gaza but about holding powerful nations accountable for their role in sustaining conflict and injustice. The timing of the Amsterdam clashes carries symbolic and political weight. The protests coincided with the announcement of the first phase of a peace plan negotiated between Israel and Hamas. A deal that includes a temporary ceasefire, limited humanitarian access, and the release of hostages. The agreement, mediated by the United States with the support of Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey, is being hailed by the Trump administration as a major diplomatic breakthrough. However, for many activists and analysts, it is viewed with skepticism. Critics argue that such top-down peace initiatives often ignore the voices of the people most affected, Palestinians themselves, and fail to address the root causes of violence, such as occupation, blockade, and displacement. Across Europe, the sentiment is similar. In cities like London, Berlin, and Paris, pro-Palestinian protests have become frequent expressions of frustration with Western governments' perceived hypocrisy, condemning aggression elsewhere but remaining silent on Israeli military actions. Amsterdam's protests, in this sense, reflect a growing disillusionment among ordinary citizens who see global diplomacy as detached from humanitarian suffering. Gaza's humanitarian collapse and the fragile path toward peace. As the world reacts to the renewed peace initiative, the situation inside Gaza remains catastrophic, a landscape of ruin, despair, and fragile hope. 2 years after the October 7 attacks that ignited the war, Gaza stands as a symbol of devastation. Entire neighborhoods lie in rubble, infrastructure is crippled, and basic services like electricity, healthcare, and water have all but collapsed. According to humanitarian agencies, the toll is staggering: over 67,000 Palestinians killed, 169,000 injured, and millions displaced. The United Nations now classifies Gaza as experiencing IPC Phase 5 famine, the highest and deadliest level of food insecurity. In simple terms, this means starvation is widespread and irreversible without immediate global intervention. The first phase of the peace plan, mediated by the United States, Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey, offers a temporary ceasefire, the partial withdrawal of Israeli troops, and the release of hostages held by Hamas. In exchange, limited humanitarian aid and reconstruction supplies would be allowed into Gaza. While the announcement sparked cautious optimism among international observers, on the ground, hope remains fragile. For the people of Gaza, peace has been promised before and broken just as quickly. Medical facilities are nearly non-existent. Over 90% of Gaza's hospitals have been destroyed or are non-functional, forcing doctors to perform surgeries without anesthesia and in dark, overcrowded rooms. Children are among the worst affected, with thousands suffering from malnutrition and trauma. The collapse of sanitation systems has led to disease outbreaks, and clean water is a rarity. Aid organizations report that Gaza's population is surviving on less than 10% of its pre-war food supplies. Every corner of the enclave bears witness to human suffering and open wound in the conscience of the world. Politically, the ceasefire agreement represents an uneasy truce rather than a solution. U.S. President Donald Trump has declared the deal a historic breakthrough, but analysts say it primarily serves Washington's geopolitical interests, aiming to reassert American influence in the Middle East amid rising competition from China and Russia. Israel's government, meanwhile, is divided. Some factions support the ceasefire as a step toward stability, while hardliners view it as a temporary concession that weakens national security. Hamas has expressed conditional approval, insisting that any peace deal must guarantee the lifting of the blockade and reconstruction of Gaza under international supervision. Regional mediators, particularly Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey, face the delicate task of balancing diplomacy with reality. Even a single airstrike or rocket exchange could unravel months of negotiations. The challenge is not merely to silence the guns, but to address the deeper issues that fuel the conflict: occupation, displacement, and the